informed a lot of my economic views, my views on authoritarianism. I grew up under a military government, so loving freedom and being free to be able to do things and think for yourself is really, really important. When I was at school, there was one particular military government where if teachers were late, they got flogged on the streets before they got to the school, not just the students. It was such a contrast to moving to a place where freedom is really important, but also even things like free trade and learning that you can't buck the market, the iron laws of supply and demand. You would get, export controls and capital controls, and all of a sudden the currency would go haywire. So a lot of very strong views on economics, but also even, and I know that it's been covered a bit, some of the comments I've made in earlier panels about immigration. My views on immigration were formed by my father, who was a GP, not being able to hire medical staff because all of them had come here or gone to the US. And we need to be very careful about what we're doing to other countries in the way that we think about migration. Migration is... I don't think we should talk about immigration as if people are economic units. They are more than that. And when people come to a country, there is a contract that's being made about joining an existing society, and we need to think about it more broadly rather than people come here to work and make us wealthier or look after our elderly. There's something more that's going on, and I'm hoping that we can have a much better conversation about immigration than the one we've been having in this country. And I speak as a first-generation immigrant, so I know that there are a lot of things that's probably easier for me to say than others, and I think that I should use my voice to have a civilized conversation about what kind of country we want to be.
And just briefly, I've been to Nigeria several times, West Africa in general. Nigeria is an incredibly dynamic, entrepreneurial place. It's full of very, very, very talented people, but it's also a place which, with all respect, and I say this with a lot of respect for Nigeria and West Africa in general, it needs leadership. And I guess that's another lesson that you learned from living in Nigeria.
Yes, good leadership, a respect for institutions, a respect for the rule of law, all of the things that make the United Kingdom great. And we know that our country is great because every day we see, thousands of people trying to get here. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so frustrated with the narrative about how terrible the UK is and how everything we do is wrong. And it's quite striking to hear people talk about their own country in this way. Many people who you would consider part of the establishment, thank you, and elites talking down their country because it has an impact. It even has an impact on things like my new role in trade. If you are telling the rest of the world that your country is terrible and racist, what do you think happens when your trade secretary goes to a developing country to ask for things? It means that they suddenly will view you with suspicion. There's so many knock-on effects of this type of talk that people don't realize. It is very indulgent, and it frustrates me because when I try and talk about these things, I end up being characterized as a culture warrior. These things are not trivial. They are very, very serious, and we need to get a little bit more serious about them. Our economic problems and our cultural problems, as we think, they are quite interlinked, and separating the two isn't necessarily helpful in terms of finding a way forward.